In Mythic Battles, we have literal divine beings using every power, every move they possibly can to navigate their sovereign people to battle, utilizing every spell and cheap trick in the book to accomplish their own agenda. While many fall for the glory of battle, some rise, leaving you bewildered and excited for more. Their bloodlust becomes so contagious that sometimes you forget that you're not really there. Welcome to our new series, The Units of Mythic Battles. Hello, my name is Weston, and this is The Lighter the Darker. Welcome to the second episode of this series. This is the series where we talk about the units that leave you discussing them long after the match has ended. The units that were so thoughtfully made, you level up as a player when you understand how they operate. These are the characters that often as I play them, I receive more revelation and wonder for the game itself. Now, prior to making this video, I would absolutely agree that Brunhild was this character for me. But I've been saying this statement recently, that this channel is built on community. And in the spirit of that, we chose Bödvar, as suggested from Andreas, best friend of the channel and one of our first subscribers. He also did suggest Brunhild out of a large pool of people I was already thinking to go against Bödvar. So thank you, Andreas. I wanted to say that because if you have any units that you would like us to cover, I would love to hear your thoughts, and go ahead and share them in the comments down below. And if you're down there, you might as well like and subscribe. Now, if you don't know, Mythic Battles classes its units by the divinities, gods and titans, and then kind of the rest of your army, the monsters, heroes, and troops. Last episode, we went over Monster, Fenrir, and Hyrule. This time, we are delving into heroes. Now, I've stated this before, but I do overall prefer heroes. There's just something fun about using a smaller miniature to take down something much bigger. Let's talk about the similarities first, because overall, these units are more alike than you would expect. Both Brunhild and Bödvar start with bees. Now on to the differences. Just kidding. Both of these heroes come with 2 Art of War cards and 4 recruitment cards. They both start with a high attack and defense of 8. Yet Bödvar keeps these stats for much longer. The major and very fascinating caveat to this is that Brunhild receives a boost of power on her last 2 health. I previously stated that they were introducing this in the newest Kickstarter, which is falsely proven here. Can you think of any other units that have this? Moving on, they both have 2 movement for the majority of their lives. They both have a free power and a power that costs an AOW. And we'll talk about those powers and the talents soon. First, let's look at these heroes and their miniatures. We are once again stunned by Monolith. Honestly, this game could carry itself without the exhaustive intricacy you find within the detail of its miniatures and its artwork. I love the armor design for both Brunhild and Bödvar's bear. The colors chosen in the portraits also very much appeal to me. Brunhild's mini is smaller, whereas Bödvar stands nearly god height, creating even more of a menacing feeling. According to a version of Norse mythology, here are their stories. I love that they decided to have Bödvar in the core box because although he comes from the tales of Hrolf Kroki, he's actually the son of Bjorn from the Ragnar saga. Although his mother is unnamed, we know that Bjorn remarries to a much younger woman from the foreign Sami clan named Fit. One day, when Pops isn't around, Fit tries to seduce the married Bödvar.
That's nasty.
He rejects her, which then Fit proceeds to do what we all would do. Cast a spell onto Bödvar, turning him into a reverse werebear. I'm sorry, what did you just say? You know, a werebear. The kind of guy who is a rampaging bear during the day but sleeps as a human at night? Oh. Moving on to the story of Brunhild. Remember that hilarious name from the last episode? Snorri Sturluson? Well, essentially, this guy wrote of Brunhild's early life, at least his version of it. Essentially, the story goes like this. One of the main characters of the various sagas is Sigurd or Siegfried. After his journey of defeating Fafnir, he finds a home where he stumbles onto a sleeping Brunhild. The absolute psycho then decides to remove her armor.
That's nasty.
When she awakes, she becomes startled and introduces herself as Brunhild, the Shield Maiden, and the Valkyrie. Sigurd skedaddles and tells King Gunnar, his buddy, about Brunhild. Then, supposedly Gunnar wants to marry her just off of Sigurd's account. But there's a problem. Brunhild resides on no ordinary mystical mountain. Flames surround this place, and Brunhild will only marry someone able to get through. Naturally, Sigurd shapeshifts into Gunnar for him, marries Brunhild, spends the night with her, but left a sword between their bodies. The next day, they return to their kingdom, switcheroo, and Brunhild was none the wiser. Later on, Brunhild finds out of their little game, and she does what we all would do. Have her husband get Sigurd murdered. Alright, how do they function in the game? I would actually put these units in two different classes, if you will. When I think of Mythic Battles, I think of characters like this. You essentially have four classes. First, we have the forward attackers. These are units made to slay divinities. They have high power, high attack, high movement, oftentimes some sort of ability that helps them take down divinities, as in Fenrir's Godslayer or Brunhild's Grudge. They oftentimes have mobility and berserk and are very self-protective. Then we have what I call the movers and the shakers. These guys are great at getting gems and interrupting the enemy's plans. They do tend to have high movement, climb or flying, and gem collector. Next, we have the mid defenders, always hanging out 2 to 3 areas away from your divinity, keeping enemies away and getting easy gems if needed. They oftentimes have block. Then we have the goalies. They will always have guard, little to no movement, high defense, close protection, and mighty throw to get those enemies away. I would say Brunhild would be a forward attacker, where Bödvar is more a mid defender. Where last time we went over Hyreken and Fenrir, I would classify both of these units as forward attackers. Let's actually take a look at these talents and powers before we go over which units could counter these two. Starting with Bödvar, we can see that he has 3 talents. Berserk, which allows you to make 2 attack actions, which you normally cannot do. Mighty Throw, which allows you to throw units depending on how many blank dice you have and what kind of unit you want to throw. And Troop Slayer. When Bödvar goes against a troop unit, he can reroll 2 of his dice. His first ability is a permanent power. It's called the Sleeper and the Bear. When recruited, you take the Sleeper and the Bear miniatures. Deploy the Bear as normal. At the same time, deploy the Sleeper 2 areas away from the Bear, excluding areas touching your edge of the game board. The Sleeper does not act and cannot move or be moved. He suffers -2 defense if the Bear is not in his surroundings. However, he can retaliate as normal. The next ability we have is a permanent ability, and it costs 1 Art of War card. I believe it is called Filja. Instead of performing a normal attack, the Bear can perform a range 0 attack targeting only enemy units. Until the start of his next activation, the Bear has the block talent, and talents and powers of other units do not affect him even if he wants them to. Next, we're going to talk about Brunhild. Brunhild has 2 talents: Mobility, which allows you to attack then move, which is not normally allowed, and then Torment, which makes the enemy have -1 defense if Brunhild attacks them from the same area. The first ability is an offensive ability. It is called Grudge, and it costs 1 Art of War card. When Brunhild targets a god, Brunhild gains 2+ offense for this attack. This one is called Bring Back the Brave, and it is a permanent power. It says during the end of turn phase, in addition to being able to perform a troop recall, you may deploy one of your destroyed troop units to your deployment area. Obviously, the first power for Bödvar is what makes him so incredibly unique, and it is a power that is a drawback for him because it essentially restricts him to the side of the board where you deployed. Even though you can't put the Sleeper in a deployment area, he really can't go that far without getting that -2 defense debuff. The second ability, Filja, is super strong because being able to only target enemy units in an area attack is super helpful. It's one of the least strategic things you can do, attacking your own allies, because if you're doing an area attack, that's what's going to happen. And then giving the Bear the block talent and totally being unaffected by any talents or powers for a whole round is very, very strong, and some would say maybe even broken. But he does not have endless power. And then going back to Brunhild, her first ability, Grudge, is what makes her unique. Grudge gives her that +2 offense whenever she attacks, specifically a god. This brings her 8 attack up to 10, which is as strong as it could possibly be. This is why I personally love Brunhild, and this ability has really helped her pop off and save a lot of my matches. Secondly, we have a permanent power called Bring Back the Brave. This one is the one about troops, and it is very helpful if you have 2 different troops on your team, because what this means is you're able to recall, and then you're also able to bring back a troop like you activated it, like it was a normal character in your deployment zone. So it could restore your army very quickly. This is the jerks for this episode. I chose these 4 characters this time because we have characters in different classes. But something that can work against both of these heroes is forcing them to move. Each of these characters can move you with various difficulty. Now, let's talk about them one by one. We spoke in depth about Hyrule in our last episode, and overall I would classify her as a forward attacker, though you might utilize her a little bit differently against these two. For Brunhild, you could use Hyrule's high movement to meet her far before she can reach your divinity. You can then block her. Brunhild is very strong, but Hyrule is too. The worst that can happen is you stall Brunhild for several rounds while your god can move farther and farther away. Hyrule's forward attack especially shines when we talk about countering Bödvar. See, Bödvar is most useful when he is around his god and his sleeper. Hyrule can move him out of this zone, then take him out, gaining easier access to Bödvar's god. Secondly, we have Thrud. She also has Mighty Throw, but that isn't where she shines. As Thrud is, I would say, the best goalie in the game, Brunhild will have a very hard time getting her grudge ability off. Then if Brunhild decides to call in troops as backup, Thrud can come back with her Ride the Lightning, sweeping those troops away with a large area attack. She can also throw enemies away from her god if Brunhild got close enough. With 2 movement and the Daughter of Thunder power, she's also a surprisingly good forward. Same idea with Grendel and actually Easton Belly. But Easton has the added advantage of being able to get you the cards you need. Alright, out of these 2 eccentric units, who do you think is stronger? Who do you think won? Thank you so much for tuning in to our second episode of the Units of Mythic Battles. We would love to hear your thoughts and what units you would like to see us cover next. My name is Weston, and this has been The Lie of the Darker. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.